Mystery and Deceit, From Earth to Mars, Book 1 of Chaos's Orbit Saga, written by James T. Hall, narrated by Chris Pullman. Episode 8, Confluence of Influence. Why do I doubt the effectiveness of that approach? Chaos held one elbow in his hand, the opposite hand stroking his goatee. Oh, that's right. It already failed you once. Chaos, Matthew said, leaning forward across the desk toward him. It didn't work because the political climate then worked against us. We can learn from it, though. We can vary the approach. It can work. Chaos leaned his head forward, glaring out the tops of his eyes and over his steepled fingers at Matthew. The man would be useful in the days to come, certainly. But when he espoused using a plan that already failed, how can it work? Convince me. Quite easily. We vary the pressure. We grow independent groups, all extremists. That way, there's not a single group to focus on like there was with the dissidents. In the best case scenario, we can use several of them to form a strong coalition, one of which we can use to gain the power we need. Worst case, we keep a few groups centrist and use the extreme ones as scapegoats. It did make some sense. Like a name brand also making the generic product. Double market share, Chaos mumbled. It was an appealing idea. You could get such groups up and running? Sure thing, Matthew said. Only take a few phone calls. Friends from the old days, Chaos thought, feeling it in Matthew's mind. There was still something else looming there, though. Something Chaos felt could get in the way. What really stopped you last time, Matt? The idea leapt forward. Matthew quickly suppressed it. Brown shirts. Probative. The political climate. I told you, things had begun turning around. The government's plan was showing signs of working. And besides, hate-filled politicking only works for so long. Our movement had already peaked in that respect. We had exhausted the emotional pool of our base, Matthew said with a shrug. That's not all of it, Chaos thought. What did Patine and you really discuss? A small squarish mustache. Ah, there it was. Even without saying it, Matthew had yielded Chaos the understanding he needed right now. That's okay, Chaos said. Matthew had begun to fidget under his gaze. He leaned back, looking toward Matthew the same way. It was a private discussion. I'm certain the details would shed no light on our current discussion, and in fact be quite boring. Matthew mentally relaxed at that. Good. Easier for me, then. We must take care while initiating such a program, as we're discussing, though. It could easily get out of hand and become the overzealousness of any one of the groups, even ones ostensibly made up of workers. You know, Arbeiters. Matthew's mind snapped shut as a steel trap. Don't ever try to hide things from me, Chaos said. Just because I give you more latitude than ordinary troops does not mean I am willing to give you free rein. Keep that in mind. Yes, sir. That something else floated forward again in Matthew's mind. Chaos stared at him for a few minutes more, letting silence do his work for him. Never let anyone become too comfortable around you, he reminded himself. Very well. Get on with it, Chaos finally said, turning away from Matthew and dismissing him with a half-wave. He will be a useful tool indeed, Chaos thought as Matthew quickly rose and left. But even useful tools need to be honed. Mystery and Deceit, From Earth to Mars, Book 1 of Chaos's Orbit Saga, written by James T. Hall, narrated by Chris Pullman. Episode 8, Confluence of Influence. Visit us online at www.narclaninc.com to link up with us.